obviously every AD carry in the league is very adept on, but JackeyLove has been very proactive with looking for plays on this Varus as we continue to highlight this bottom lane. But you can't ignore the fact that Shanji and Aki, two players that I would argue have been struggling the most for NIP in Split 2, are on very pivotal champions. Gwen and Skarner are just, you know, like best dish possible when it comes to drafts for these roles.
Absolutely. Now, it will be interesting to see if we are going to get the on-hit Varus or the poke Varus right here. I don't particularly think you want to be stepping up the Arky on this Skarner, but you are going to struggle a little bit to be able to get through this Skarner in the later stages of the game. It's going to be the Lilia picked up right here as well. So top esports, they've got themselves the kind of composition that wants to scale a little bit further on into the late game. You can try to play around the bottom side if you want to, depending on what the support is going to be. And it's going to be the Talia to round things out right here for NIP. Their composition also has some decent later game scaling.
I really like this Lilia from Kanavi. I think Lilia is the bane of Skarner's existence. He's all about lockdown. You'll slam people into walls. I mean, Lilia is just so tricky, so speedy. You know, just dashing in and out. So Kanavi positioning himself well. Not early game, but as this game evolves, be a real thorn in Aki's side. We get another draft, though, where supports are left for the second phase, but in a Game 1 Fearless, not a lot of bans being thrown that way yet. It looks like for top esports, they want to cut down on Leaves champion pool. Jin ban, I wonder if we'll get maybe something like a Kaisa as well, or an Ezreal.
Is entirely possible. I feel like the Ezreal might be decent right here. Leave's been pretty good on it, and with the Kaisa taken off the board, it kind of remains as the top champion. You can always go towards the Misfortune. You have good setup. Yes. Okay, so this is a better game for Misfortune. You've got Skarner and Pale, you got Talia, like Wall and Seismic Shove. There's a lot of good space you can buy for Misfortune. Yes.
We are not gonna. I'm not gonna do the MF hate speech for this one. Does that mean that the MF is going to fall flat, though? Because we kind of been wrong. We'll have to see. There's an Alistair, there's a Lilting Lullaby. Like, there are now ways to bump the MF out of that ult.
Yes, exactly. But it's not necessarily one of the worst games right here for the MF. You don't have things like the Vi or the Neferi who's going to go flying into the backline. They also took the Yone out for that exact same reason, right? To allow Leave a lot more space to be able to sit himself into these spots, get into a good position potentially. It looks like it is going to be Creme picking up this Corki into the mid lane right here. And this is going to be interesting. What do you want to round this composition out with? There's a lot of the best-in-class support still available, as you said. You don't want to take the Rel into the Alistair. You don't want to counter-pick yourself right here. So it is just going to be the Nautilus paired up. That's a very high-priority bot lane. You can make the bot lane here of Varus and Alistair pretty uncomfortable if you play this one correctly as Leave and ppgod.
Top esports, though, on the other side of this draft, have responded to the all-in potential of a Skarner Impale and this bullet time with range. They are going to have two marksmen, and they're going to have a Jace with an Alistair and a Lilia that can do a pretty good job, you know, buying time. So look for top esports to try and create as much space as possible, lend themselves towards setup and neutral objectives first. There's a lot of onus on NIP to get things going, or they're just going to get whittled down chunk by chunk.
Yes, exactly. If top esports are ever allowed that priority into these objectives, stepping up into this one is going to be very tricky. You're going to be reliant right here on the Skarner and on the Nautilus to be able to buy you a little bit of space, maybe face check onto this one. I think also having the Corki very much unlocks you to just fully have JackeyLove go for that poke version of the Varus. You can have that shred through tanks onto Creme, who's going to have to be shorter ranged anyway. That gives you a lot of poke between you. And they've also got themselves Kanavi right here as the only AP source, which is going to make the itemization for Arky pretty tricky to decide on. Do you want to get yourself a little bit of magic resist to deal with Kanavi? If you do that, you're sacrificing a lot of armor onto these other heavy AD champions.
Great point to make, Bloxer. We'll see what the route there is for Arky. The reality of this matchup as we head into game number 1 is two teams who had some very high highs in split number 1 are on two very different trajectories. Top esports looking to grab the top of Group Ascend for maybe just a day, and NIP just looking to get back to winning ways, get their mid laner from MVP split form, a return needed. The TES are up for the challenge as our featured matchup of the night brings a lot louder gyos than I remember from Group Nirvana.
There were gyos?
Murmurs.
Somebody said it, that's for sure. Yeah, indeed, this is going to be a far more hype matchup, and the crowd very much going to be reflecting that one. TES, they want to continue their domination at the moment. Yeah, it looks like they've got themselves locked in one of those top 4 spots that gets the bye moving on towards the playoffs. But you want to be the top dog coming out of this, and they've got a little bit of a crush at the top of the standings at the moment. AL, Top, Invictus, all been doing incredibly well for themselves. TES want to see NIP as nothing more than a small speed bump on their road to bigger and better things. NIP, though, this matchup means so much to them. They need to stop the slide they found themselves on. They need to get their feet back under them, and if they're going to do so, we're going to have to see something better from Aki and Doinb, and Leave and ppgod continue to be these great bot laners that we've seen from them in a couple of these games.
You really got to have all that to sync together up against a TES team that looks just so difficult to deal with on all fronts. From mid-jungle to 369 to the ever-reliable JackeyLove and Crisp. As we see Kanavi, hold on, so that is the double chicken tech again. Is this just Lilia tech that we're learning about now?
It is Lilia tech, but last time we saw it badly, right? The Lilia tech works if you now just stick through your jungle and take your camps.
Oh, ppgod. Oh, we are looking to tussle here. Ignite onto both AD carries. JackeyLove very soon to fall. The lead does not commit the flash. Go for the Q. JackeyLove lives. And it's a summoner advantage for now over to Crisp and TES.
Kanavi can potentially take this camp and then push his way up into this bottom lane. Leave and ppgod are super pushed up at the moment. That's now going to be the level 3 right here for the Lilia. And Kanavi completely unspotted. This is the way you make the tech work.
There they go. Okay, Leave immediately flashes away from Crisp, and
hey, you take
Kanavi's happy with that. Take the flash off of Leave. They're just going to... Kanavi's going to be a little more pesky to allow JackeyLove to catch a huge crop of minions. So that is both bottom lanes flashes away from NIP.
Now, interestingly enough, it is going to be Kanavi heading straight on over to his red buff, so he's not going to head straight towards his topside jungle. Could potentially, if you wanted to save a couple of your camps right here, obviously the Skarner, despite having a little bit of his early game skirmishing power taken away from him, is still going to be a little bit more effective than the Lilia. Kanavi will still be making his way up into the area. Even if you miss out onto your blue buff right here, it's not ideal, obviously. You're not going to be particularly happy about that one, but it's not the end of the world because you do get that flash away from Leave, and you take a lot of the pressure that your bot lane would have been facing away from them.
Kanavi, the veteran jungler he is, always willing to sacrifice some of his camps for the greater good, but it does kind of harsh the mellow of a power farming Lilia. ppgod looking to get back out on the map. Aki's not messing around. He flashes to get the immediate impale into the wall, but Creme still flashes himself to safety. And topside, I'm going for a replay because 369 just took hands to Shanji.
He just immediately manages to get himself that solo kill, and that was such an unfortunate moment of anti-synergy where the hook just goes completely wide as Aki flashes be able to get the push into the wall. We'll have a look back at what we ended up missing in the top side. Shanji flashes forwards in a situation he has no right to. 369 just walks him down right there. I'm not sure what Shanji thought he was going to be able to do. Didn't even ghost in that situation.
Yeah, he was really banking on the fact that you get that full passive proc. Snip stacked up, and 369 just... all the aura in the world, man. Sidesteps that, finds himself the solo kill. We do have some weird lane assignments. It does seem like Shanji's got himself a pretty good 1v1 with JackeyLove. Does not have barrier up just yet, and does have to flash away from Shanji, but JackeyLove is falling for the bait because it's not just the Gwen you got to deal with, it's Aki as well. JackeyLove picked off and fried on the grill for Shanji.
There you go, that's a bit of redemption right there for Aki, exactly what we needed to see from this jungler who's been struggling a little bit for NIP, not playing up to the same standard that we got to see from him in split number 1. That little bit better, good start, and giving over that kill to the Gwen after Shanji ended up losing out in that 1v1 is huge. You want to keep this Gwen in a good spot. You leave that open as a trade. You're saying, hey, we either get ourselves the Varus or the Gwen. They get the Gwen in this situation, such a strong power pick. And if you can't pay it back to your team, it's really going to hurt them right here. So exactly what we need to see from Aki. At least he's able to redeem himself a bit.
I like the map movement here from NIP. Really, they utilize Leave's strut, how fast he get around the map, so he catches mid-wave, so there's no minions lost there for Doinb. Runs back, bodies being able to catch that wave as well, and with this wave soon to bounce back into Shanji. It's not actually going to hurt that much on the map gold-wise. They haven't really sacrificed a ton, and it's kept them competitive with being down just a couple hundred gold by this point.
Love the tech right here from Kanavi, sitting back far enough, knows there's going to be a ward in that brush. So it's just not going to be spotted out, and it's going to be able to start up onto these grubs right here. JackeyLove.
JackeyLove, no.
Take two.
You are the play, my
Not
friend.
again.
Your team's going for grubs. He's trying to work his way back towards the turret. Not enough damage from Leave at this point, but barrier burned right off cooldown. JackeyLove got to play a lot more careful on that weak side right now.
Yeah, he's stepping up a little bit too far, and this is a player we were really praising during the early stages of this talk, right? Hey, he'd been looking good. All of a sudden, was a little bit over-aggressive. He lives, though, all good. It is now going to be the trade 1-for-1 between the Grubs going over to TES and the Drake going to be picked up right here for NIP. Just being a Cloud Drake right here, I am actually going to give this one over to TES. Slightly more worthwhile, especially if they're able to get themselves one or two of this next set of Grubs. So far, through the early game, though, it is only 1-for-1 for the kills. Nothing too explosive has ended up happening at the moment. And that's what you overall expect from the kind of composition that TES have for themselves. You are more looking to get yourself to those item breakpoints to fight, whereas we want to see aggression and some early game skirmishing right here from Arky. He's done a good job of it so far, picking up that kill in the top side. Can he turn that around again into another kill?
Especially with no neutrals to play for, want to see NIP lean into some of these overloads. See Doinb flying in with the Weaver's Wall. He looked to pick off JackeyLove. Still doesn't have his flash available at this point. Creme's flash is still down as well. These marksmen for TES want to just farm their happy, merry way to 2 and 3 items. That IP drafted to deal with this, like you called out. So off the reset here for this Skarner for Aki and Doinb. Looking for some proactivity before more neutrals come up to force everybody to play around the river.
2 minutes, 30 seconds until we're going to get the next set of Grubs. 4 minutes until we're going to get the next Drake. So those are going to be not spawning at the same time. It's going to allow TES to try to play around the second set of Grubs if they want them. You can also just concede them pretty easily. It's not ideal. You don't want to be giving any Grubs over to a composition that has a Gwen. She can really just melt through towers on the side lanes. But you've already done the hard bit, which is getting that first set and making it so you get the choice.
Choice for Kanavi here, potentially looking for a bot lane gank. The slow comes across onto JackeyLove. He's holding the chains of corruption. After the flash, is going to drop it onto ppgod, who is a mincemeat to the combined might of Kanavi and JackeyLove. He just got bopped so hard, we're getting a pause called through.
Oh boy, does ppgod think that something was wrong there?
You know, that's the million-dollar question, right? The pause immediately comes out. Don't see that every day, but you do get bugs. But I don't feel like I saw any bug. I mean, he does stand still after the flash, but he gets hit by the chains of corruption. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder what it was specifically that we ended up seeing. This is the issue with the not being main broadcast. We do not get any information about this one. We have to figure it out from context clues at the moment. We're expecting this to be an NIP pause. Otherwise, I'd be very surprised if Top Esports have paused this for some reason. Didn't see anything particularly odd that I thought looked very wrong. I was surprised that they were able to pick up that kill, though. When that initial Swell Seed missed out of Kanavi, I was like, okay, he might be able to get away, but the CC between a Varus and a Nautilus is so strong.
Yeah, it really shone through. It actually, you know, seeing it, it looks like it might have actually been called by Top Esports. I saw a couple of the refs, I believe, talking to Creme there. So maybe a PC issue's coming across here.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, you know, there hasn't been a ton of things happening on the map, but already I feel like we're seeing the trend we've been preaching about, you know, the momentum of these two squads. NIP drafted, you know, a Skarner, a Lilia to, once these ultimates come online, play the map, play your advantages with global ultimates. But it's Kanavi and TES that are leading the charge. And it's that bottom lane of JackeyLove and Chris that are confident enough to go for proactive plays on their own. So after a bit of time since we've seen TES and company, like they look like they've just locked into this steady form, and it's really potent against anyone, especially a 2 and 4 NIP team.
And the fact that you get a solo kill as 369 in this matchup, I think is the most impactful thing that we've seen happen so far. You have already made it uncomfortable to just have the standard top lane matchup happening in any one point. 369 on this Jace really has been looking so good recently. He's got so much priority in his lanes. Even in lanes he doesn't necessarily win 100% of the time, and this was a matchup he was very comfortable to be able to pick for himself, right? We see the Gwen pulled in very early on for NIP during the draft process. Immediately 369 is like, nah, Jace, I can play this one. Gets the solo kill off of a Shanji flash forwards as well, so is able to punish any aggression that Shanji was able to put down. And now that your Jace is in a good spot in this kind of comp, where you've got a ton of poke that can then transition very well into the straight up 5v5 team fights, TES have done well for themselves in the very early stages of this game to be in a good spot moving forward.
They're just going to have, you know, so much range. The range advantage is really crippling because you can find these unique Skarner flank angles. You know, you can try and come over top with these Weaver, with a ton of Weaver's wall tech, but Jace, you know, Jace, Poke, Varus, Corki, like,
yeah,
all these guys have a ton of projectiles that they can really throw your way. And while you do have a tanky comp with an Alistair and a Skarner that can eat up a lot of this, you drafted a Gwen to be the main damage carry home. You drafted a Misfortune. Yeah. Like, these champions need to get close-ish to be effective, and the range discrepancy is what is really making me worried for the rest of this game state for Ninjas and Pyjamas.
Exactly. In the ideal team fights right here for top esports, you're not really getting close enough for the MF ulti to be a big problem. You know, you should be able to do a lot of the poke early on enough that at the point at which you're jumping in and getting within range of the bullet time, your opponents are already on low health bars. You know, I think there's an interesting bit of tech here potentially between the Skarner and the Gwen, where because of Gwen is immune, you draw people to step in within the Hallowed Mist to be able to deal damage. Then they're close enough to potentially get grabbed by Arky, turn it into the big bullet time out of leave. You know, there's some interesting ideas, and also Doinb, if he's feeling good with those seismic shoves, can bring people in close enough to make it worthwhile to be able to pull that ulti off. But that's a lot of key pieces that need to happen all together to make it work, as is often the case with an MF composition. The setup is so important, and TES, they're the kind of squad who know how to stop that from really becoming an issue.
Well, our LPL referees know how to get the game going back.
Yeah.
Whatever issue seems to be resolved. Kills are still standing, so I think it was maybe just a tech issue there for Creme. All is well, it seems, as we... Oh?
Hello?
Are we still here? Oh, okay. I think. Okay, we just had a little feed issue, so we're all good. We get a little bit of a tech issue ourselves, right? And remember, we fixed ours 10 times faster.
Yeah, exactly.
LPL.
Look at us. LPL English on top right now. But no, we are glad to be jumping straight back into this one. Whenever we see a pause happen, I'm always hoping and praying that it's just somebody's headset's died. Plug in a new one. Here we go. Good to go. And indeed, it was pretty quick overall. The game state, nothing too much to really write home about. Small gold advantage right here for TES. Spread pretty evenly across the board. You can see 300, 400 gold in a couple of these different lanes. Nothing too much overall. And for the most part, these teams have been pretty happy to play this early game out standard, to the benefit, I'd have to say, of top esports, with the kind of composition that very much spikes harder for them during the mid to late game.
It's what's making it even more of a problem for NIP that comp seems to be more proactive on the map. You can see the early movements, the priority for TES towards these grubs as they shift JackeyLove up towards the top side, getting wave shoved in there. They're also bringing along Crisp, who does take a quick reset. They've got 369's teleport. TES are looking to brawl, or at least get some vision down towards these grubs, spawning about 15 seconds, and NIP are making it a point to try and battle back in the Vision Wars themselves.
Yeah, they very much need to play around these grubs. You really don't want to be giving over all 6. Picking up any grubs would help out your Gwen on her split pushing missions. So you're going to watch the top laners go to battle here down in the bottom side of the map. 369 has teleport, so does Shanji. So if a big fight does break out, we could potentially see either of these two join back up. Now in these early game skirmishes, where you do have yourself that impale into bullet time combo between Leave and Arky, that can be so potent even early on when the MF ulti doesn't deal that much damage. But so far, NIP, they haven't been able to get the priority into the pit. At least this first grub might just go down.
Excel's impact can be interrupted by
Chris.
Chris. Catches Aki. Now he has to flash further into the pit as Creme does eat a dredge line, but Crisp is getting 1v1 by Leaf. There's the impale onto Kanavi, trying to survive in the pit. He flashes over, gets the double lilting lullaby, and Top Esports just throw ninjas in pajamas to the fishes. It's time to reap the rewards. Multi-kill over to JackeyLove. 4 grubs secured, everything secured, and who else but the heart, the captain, the soul of Top Esports, bringing them to the promised land once more. Finds himself another kill at Doinb, trying to find 1 stone to get the shutdown. Will get a fleeting kill back, but it's a commanding win. Home by 1 piercing arrow for Top Esports.
There we go. Everybody but JackeyLove is going to die at some point throughout that fight, all barring 369, who's pushing in the bottom lane.
All right.
Very, very end, picking up another couple of kills too. Once you come back out onto the map for all of these Top Esports members and you spend the gold that you've managed to get for yourself from that set of plays, you're going to be in very strong positions. And let's go, we're back.
All right, we're back. Hopefully monitors are solved. Let's get a replay back in here, though, to soak in that big fight. And I really just want to direct everyone's attention to the hijinks of Kanavi in this one.
Yes, absolutely. Kanavi is the main person to watch. Gets single man impaled right here. Still ends up surviving. And then the double lilting lullaby over the pit is brilliant. I didn't even see that JackeyLove ended up missing the chains of corruption there. Still was able to pick that one up. And then is just able to kind of walk this one down. Shanji gets taken out. Doinb does finally get the kill back, but the damage is already done. And the other thing to pay attention to is while all of this is happening, look bot lane. 369 is currently pushing a tier 2 tower. Now, I don't know what the outcome of that one was. We'll have to see after this replay goes through, after we watch this gorgeous little snipe right here from JackeyLove. But yeah, that bot lane tier 2 tower took a ton of damage, and actually on the back end of that replay, TES going to be able to grab themselves this Hextech Drake too.
They're going to knock down first turret of the game as well. This turret falls to Creme. That's going to be feats of strength secured for Top Esports as they are just looking automatic.
Oh yeah.
Different league in Group Ascent compared to NIP as Chain Scrubs comes down from JackeyLove. Bullet time comes across. JackeyLove playing with his food and sending Leave home with a couple of scrapes and bruises to remind him why it's not so easy to contest mid waves against this guy.
Absolutely, even with that bullet time going down just after the Chains of Corruption comes through, with that Youmuu's already completed here onto JackeyLove, he just does way more damage. And this is what we needed to see from Top Esports, right? They go to first stand and, well, you know. It was...
What's first stand? Bloxer, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. We had some questions, let's say, coming into Split 2. And then... even during the group stage where they go 6-0, we still had some questions. I feel like in Split 2, they've finally been able to begin putting those to rest. As we've been saying, a lot of that has very much been coming through Kanavi, putting himself and his team in some brilliant spots. Right now, though, Aki looking to fight back, has the little brush. Oh, no.
Oh, Creme knows, man. It's just, when you know, you know. And this guy just sniffs out trouble. He sees Doinb here as well on the Scrying Orb. Still trying to step up to the wave with Chris nearby. He's going to dodge out on the Ixtal's impact. There is no wave under this turret anymore, and they supercharged it so that Aki gets one shot by it. If anything is describing NIP's Group Ascend so far, it's that clip right there.
Very much TES. They are in complete control of this game right now. They've got themselves up by 4,000 gold. 369 going to come in. Isn't going to be able to pick up that kill onto Shanji, but it doesn't even matter. That TP is actually still fine because this is the wave he's going to be wanting to push through anyway. You know, you've got 3 minutes until the next Drake is going to be spawning. Very much the plays are going to be focused around the top side and the Herald. So getting 369 down into that bottom lane is fine. Now the ping's coming through onto this mid lane tier 2. ppgod leave. I think you need to walk away from this one.
PP got a little late to the party. Does Dredgeline Chris in the middle of his headbutt pulverize, but the turret's going to drop down. Chris, with that Unbreakable Will, survives for a while. Aki does not get the impale. JackeyLove expertly flashes back towards safety, and now the range can sing for Top Esports in the name of rockets and piercing arrows into the noggins of NIP once more.
It's another fight going the way of TES. NIP, they are falling right here in the face of one of the best teams we've got in the LPL at the moment. TES, even though they aren't undefeated, they're still looking like a great squad. And NIP, it's a real tough matchup for them to try to get their feet back under them. That's the joys, right, of this Group Ascent. Constant, amazing matchups between these top tier teams. And for those who are only just able to squeak their way into Group Ascent, it's a rough schedule.
It's such a fun dichotomy to what Split 1's regular Split was. We'll talk a bit about more about that. JackeyLove, love the way you're playing Varus, man, but he has not hit Chains of Corruption this game. I just want that corrected. Oh, we are diving 369. That turret is gone. Flashes out, phase rush, hell of a drug, runs away from the needlework, sidesteps it with the E. 369 will not relent, and in comes Kanavi. 1, 2, they all fall like dominoes. Leave is next on the chopping block. No one can stand up to the premier jungler, maybe the premier player of Split 2. Give him a triple kill. Say his name, Kanavi.
Kanavi once more actually is now going to try to chase here onto Aki. Don't know if he's going to be able to jump over the next wall. Just about is going to be able to get away, but they are scattering to the four corners. 50 seconds until the next Drake spawns, otherwise that would have been the Drake going over to top esports as well. And even when NIP are able to grab themselves a couple of good plays, 1 or 2 kills here or there, TES, they're just faster to rotate down, get involved, and Kanavi with even more kills under his belt. Once he goes back to base, he's going to be well on the way to that third item. I mean, look at him right now, 2 items completed already. Is so strong at the moment.
He's outpacing the guy building full lethality on his team with kills.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta give our flowers to 369, though. This sidestep was crispy.
Now, what happens across the rest of the map? Does JackeyLove die on this one? Elsewhere? I couldn't quite tell what ended up happening elsewhere. Because Kanavi is just murdering people. JackeyLove, this is what ends up happening to JackeyLove. He's trying to join up with the rest of his team, gets caught out by himself. Yep. Whilst the triple kill was happening, does unfortunately give a kill back over to NIP. That's something for NIP to try to play around potentially here. Still, they are quite far behind in terms of where the damage is. The only person who's been able to complete themselves a couple of items is Doinb, but that's the heavy scaling build that's still going to take a while to come back online.
And they're bleeding across the map. Objective bounties coming across. Top esports have all tier 1s down. They're taking residency in enemy jungle. They're grabbing themselves mountain drakes towards the soul.
Yep.
It's good eating for TES right now.
Oh, yeah. 2,800 gold, the advantage just for Kanavi over Aki. Don't mistake that for the advantage across the course of the rest of the game right here. 6,000 gold for TES, and they've got complete control of this map at the moment. You can see around this Rift Herald in the top side, huge amount of wards just all over the place, and with a composition with some good poke between the Jace and the Varus, it's going to make it that much harder for MIP to step up. They're so reliant on getting the good setup that allows Leave to find this big bullet time, but without the vision to be able to start that setup, I really don't know how they can get themselves back into this game.
They've just never been comfortable. They've never been in a spot to ever really find those windows.
Yeah.
It's Aki's impales on the solo pickoffs. Doinb has found some success, like you talked about, with the damage on this Lilia, but NIP have never been in a spot yet where they're comfortably fighting 5v5, so maybe they're going back towards pick potential. Creme, Weaver's Wall gets Doinb close enough. They teleport Shanji in here. Look at all the resources poured in for one growling Corki who flashes his way, trying to get to safety, buying time for the teleport to come across. Kanavi is here. 369 is here, but they're both served up on a silver platter by Aki. Perfect timed impale. And now JackeyLove and Chris, look how shocked they are. They're the only 2 members left up. NIP have found a diamond in the rough through their Skarner. 4 big kills back to give us a whole new game 1.
Oh, Kanavi, he thought he'd found himself that moment for the big damage, big ulti, but no, Aki says. Impale onto the 2 key members. JackeyLove now trying desperately to stop this Atacam from going over. He's just going to have to walk away, though. It's going to be the buff picked up for NIP, and in a game that was looking oh so rough during the early stages, 20 minutes in, and all of a sudden they managed to claw their way back towards this one. Huge gold lead, all of a sudden taken down to just 2,000, and let's watch this one back. I too was a little bit worried for NIP here, because yes, they're getting onto Creme, but it takes a while for them to be able to pick this one up. But watch Arky. He times this one out perfectly, double impale. Exactly what you need, and it's not even the double impale into immediate bullet time combo that you would otherwise expect. You don't even have leave in the area at this point. Instead, it's just well played on the impale, turns around into a good fight, and the fact that you're right next to the Atakan at the point at which this happened is just the cherry on top.
Well, lead's basically severed in half. NIP now, with that revive, that false life, can continue to look for aggressive angles. They've got 2 items over on this Gwen, the Skarner, that scaling Lilia build is here. NIP can compete and really brawl in these team fights after it seemed like this game was so far done and dusted.
Absolutely, but I don't think we should be counting TES out here either.
No.
They've still got a ton of damage available to them. And Arky, he's going to have to repeat that really well-executed impale if he wants any chances of his team being able to pick up the win right here. Like I said, 2,000 now the gold very much has come back down. There's going to be a big drop in that gold graph when we have a look at it at the end of the game right now. Let's see if it fully swings over into NIP's favor though. Their sight's currently set on pushing towards these towers, mid lane tier 1. Jungle fight though, Shanji.
Chris going in. Remember, false life for Shanji, so he's not too careful.
Oh, no.
Impale gonna whiff though. Creme, great Valkyrie to buy some space. They utilize the Gwen ultimate for some big ultimates, but Kanavi gets a huge 3-man sleep, goes right into the station, flashes out to safety. This guy is a magician on the Lilia. You see him, now you don't. All you see is these false lives dropping like flies for NIP. It may not be kills, but it's 4 kills earned in my book.
Absolutely, you still get most of the gold for it. It still gets these false lives off of your opponents during this no man's land point of the game, right? It's not the point at which you're trying to play around the Baron or around the Dragon, where those false lives can really unlock that extra level of aggression about these objectives. Instead, you kind of just lose them for no reason, give the gold back over. Yes, Kanavi now is going to have that broken stopwatch and is also not going to have that flash available for these next big fights. That's something to watch, but still, TES showing why they are one of the top teams that we have in this league.
Chris is looking for more here. Catching ppgod, just going for a lowly ward. The bullet time will not assuage Creme from finding that kill. Pick over to TES, and look what's up for them in a matter of seconds. Mountain Drake coming down onto the rift. Chris is going to take a reset. And NIP is hop right onto that Mountain Drake. Yeah.
Why not? It's only taking you to 2 Draces apiece, so that's not going to be the end of the world. You can push forwards here and pick yourself up a tier 2 turret in the mid lane. I'd say that's more than worth it right here for TES if they can escape cleanly. And they're also now transitioning their way up towards the top side of the map, popping the Rift Herald as well. And this 2 tier 2 towers off the back of 1 Mountain Drake that doesn't even take your opponents to soul point, absolutely worthwhile for TES. They are playing the map great here.
Using their range to really heighten this siege, but they're running out of minions. The Herald Shelly doesn't crack the turret fully. TES are committed. They're going to reset up vision. Just allow these arrows, these rockets, these elevated shock blasts to sing from over the wall, from the fog.
Yeah, the poke.
Slowly just whittling down at these tanks. Chains of Corruption going to get the cleanse out of leave as he tanks it. Drench line. Edge of Night takes that one up. Depth charge down onto JackeyLove. Weaver's Wall. He's going to flash over it to get to safety, but they get the impale onto Creme. Corki is down. Crisp is trapped on one side. Kanavi forcing Doinb into the stasis as Shanji looks to go forward. His life sacrifice is Crisp. 369 getting slowed up now. And NIP are starting to churn and burn through these health bars as a double kill comes through for Doinb. This game is on a nice edge. NIP are not going quietly into the night.
TES, they needed to recognize there that you don't get the tier 2 tower. That's fine. You've still made it a worthwhile trade. Back off. You don't need to keep stepping up. I did not mind the moment where JackeyLove throws out the Chains of Corruption to get the cleanse off of leave, but at that point you need to walk away. You have to recognize that Doinb right here, sat on the Lilia with the Weaver's Wall up and available, can turn this around all of a sudden. This is fine. Now you leave. Now you walk straight away. Instead, Crisp goes flying in. And actually, the fact that you don't have the flash right here on Kanavi is huge, because he's not able to play this fight anywhere near aggressively as he would have otherwise. You can see there's multiple times right now where he's sat with a lot of low health members that he maybe could have gone and jumped into the middle of, then flashed out again. But without either a golden or the flash available, you have to play more respectfully, and it leaves the rest of his team out to dry.
It's the one weakness of TS's comp, that they don't respect the snap engage from the Skarner. With Nautilus hook, they don't allow TS to sit at that range and sort of whittle down these health bars. They are a lot less effective. You can see how critical role setup plays for both these teams in this game. And now with Baron up, I mean, all eyes drift towards the pit.
Who's going to be able to pick this one up? The range advantage very much for TES, so getting themselves onto these towers is going to be a little bit easier, especially if they've then got those Baron buffs. They've got themselves those Baron empowered cannon minions, especially NIP. They're going to struggle a little bit to be able to take them down, very much reliant on Doinb to be able to do that. Right now, though, things are tense. Like I said, knife's edge right now for an incredibly important matchup here in Group SN. TS, they want to keep themselves at the top of the standings right now. Keep going toe-to-toe with the likes of AL, BLG, all of those. NIP, though, they need a win here to be able to get themselves back on their feet, back into a decent spot. Otherwise, it looks like they're going to be facing those Group Nirvana teams later on. They don't get a break between now and playoffs if they can even make it.
Remember, the fourth spot, the final spot into playoffs, is really anyone's game as we delve further into the second of the round robins of Group SN. It's 3-3 JDG clinging onto it desperately.
Yeah.
So NIP would love to reach that 3-win mark themselves as we set up for this next Baron. Key items that have come through here. Kanavi does get the Zanyas fully completed, so we'd like to see him get back towards those with flash available. Big time, classic Lilia. Flash in, big Q, ult, go Zanyas. Let's see if Kanavi can do it, because he was running this game 10 minutes ago. It's a whole different ballgame.
Now that he's got himself those survivability tools that you really need, that's the point in which you're going to be in a very good spot right now. 2,000 gold, still the advantage for TES. They haven't been able to re-widen that gap since they lost it in those top lane plays. They haven't either allowed NIP to get themselves further footholds into this one. 30 seconds on the Drake. Like I said, Baron up and available right now. What's the decision making right here? Whichever team picks up this Drake does get themselves to Soul Point. Crisp gets engaged upon, but is just going to be able to walk this one away. Is a pretty tanky cow at the moment.
Tankier Scorpion there from Aki as he takes a ton of poke but doesn't lose too much of his health bar. Remember, JackeyLove does not have flash up, so he's got to play a lot more careful on this Vars. Weaver's Wall coming down, trying to cut down escape angles as ppgod survives the engage. Aki flies in, grabs himself the Alistair, and it sets up a huge headbutt pulverizing Chris, and now Kanavi gets the big time sleep. Aki might have just delivered the doom and demise of ninjas in pajamas. These stasises will not save you, Doinb. Falls to 369. Creme's going forward with the rocket power to slap down NIP. It may have gotten muddy, it may have gotten murky, but when push comes to shove, TES are here to answer the call.
Aki giveth and Aki taketh away right there. Unfortunately gives the perfect engage that Crisp needed. And in fact, TES, they don't want to play this game anymore. 20 seconds until Lever's back up. 10 seconds until Aki is here. And with 4 grubs and a team composition with plenty of ADCs, they're going to be able to win this game.
One mistake and TES taking a mile. More back and forth than we expected, but it's top esports taking a significant lead in this series, knowing all the stakes of the Group SN ladder.
This is what we were expecting as the outcome. Wasn't necessarily what we were expecting as the meat and potatoes of this game. There were moments where it was looking good. That double impale in the topside play around Atakan for Aki was gorgeous. And then in that last fight, just yoinks Crisp straight in for the 4-man knockup. And unfortunately, it wasn't just that play. The fact you don't get the impale onto multiple people, that does suck. The fact you give Crisp that initial bit of engage, also not ideal. But it was more the tools that were now back up and available for top esports that they hadn't had in the previous fights. The flash and the golden that you had for Kanavi, the flash that you've got for JackeyLove, just the ability for these people to sit a little bit more comfortable in their fights and actually step up, go do the damage that they need to without worrying so much. That's what really unlocked it. It was just the mistake from NIP that gave them the window to use all of those tools.
It was TES, getting back towards playing space, just playing distance. You saw that on point there. TES, a team that does not get shaken up by a little bit of woes in the mid game. This is the LPL, guys. We've seen so many games change hands in that 18 to 23 minute window, but not this top esports squad, and especially not the way they are playing with the best jungler in the league by far. I mean, Kanavi started the monumental lead, got caught in one depth charge, impale combo, looked a bit iffy, but that final fight, we called it. We pointed out the Zanya's Bloxer. 3-man sleep. It's good night, ninjas in pajamas.
Absolutely, it is. There were a lot of impressive performances throughout that game as well. I don't think anything elevated JackeyLove to the level of MVP in that game, but the snipe in the mid lane to be able to finish off that kill, that was pretty sexy. I gotta be honest though, Crisp, I thought he had a really good game. In that initial fight that they had around the second set of grubs, was able to stop Arky as he was jumping in and completely turn that fight in the favor of top esports. That was the way that they were able to begin getting into this game. And then, right at the end, getting that 4-man knock-up off of the drag in, I thought it was very impressive out of Crisp overall. You can see, not a clean game though. That gold graph is up and down and up and down. But hey, if it works, it works. If
it works, it works. Results-based analysis here, baby. And we can clean up a couple of bad team fights there. It's still TES just on such a meteoric run right now that they really haven't slowed down. And again, it's such a positive sign and maybe a worrying sign for NIP that it felt like they were too late to the proactive plays they needed out of their comp, right? Like, by the time we were getting those cool Weaver's Wall combos with the impales and the X-Stall impacts, you were just down 5,000 gold, too far down for it to matter.
Exactly. Your composition comes online and they start winning a few of these fights, being able to drag themselves back into this game a little bit, but you haven't spiked earlier than your opponents, and you've especially let Kanavi get really into this game. Arky had a good gank very early on, but there was only one, and this Skarner is one of the best champions for spam ganking pre-6, and then once you've got 6, yes, you want to be using that ulti on multi-man impales in the team fights, but you're allowed to go use it in the lanes to try pick yourself up a couple of kills. Instead, they use some of that priority that they had from the Skarner to badly attempt dives. I was going to say dive people, but they didn't execute on those ones either, and it was just buying so much time for Kanavi to be able to get a couple of items under his belt, and then he started doing this to people. Yeah,
and then he started going crazy by this point, and if Kanavi is the main problem on the map, then TS are eating good because you allow 369 to play his own game fine. JackeyLove, I mean, he was the target of some of these ganks, but ends up still being great on the old reliable Varus. Creme farmed up to a great point. If so much attention is getting paid towards Kanavi, TES can really relax into form, and that, I think, is what has made them so potent in this current current form they're in so far through Group Ascent.
Absolutely, and as much as we need to praise top esports for being able to win this game, I've got some questions again for NIP, specifically in my mind. You don't ban the Gwen, you have it as a trade between either the Varus or the Gwen, you end up getting it, and then you get solo kill top lane, and Shanji was just incredibly quiet throughout that game. Never felt like he was quite able to step up in the way his team would have really needed. Leaf had one good ulti during a lot of those fights. In the majority of the fights, it really wasn't the MF popping off either, and this was a composition that could have made it work.
Yeah, again, it's like, against a team like Top Esports, they just know the assignment, man. It was so hard to get them ever close enough. The only fight where they were bunched in was when they were really pressing for that tier 2 top turret. But outside of that, like, MF's range, even with bullet time, just does not compete into a Jace and a Varus that are just so far away poking onto you. And sure, if we're talking about a lot of other teams, I think they misposition. I think there's better openings for Skarner, but I just keep gravitating back to the fact that TES is a team you're not going to get away doing that against, and NIP are just not at a cut above to try comps like this in a TES right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to out-hands TES, so you need to be able to get yourself a better composition and out-map movement them. That just was not the case right here for NIP.
No.
And although it wasn't specifically that, Leave was mispositioning or whatever, there were just multiple moments where you were like, yeah. And, well, I'm not surprised that Kanavi gets the
Most
MVP
obvious.
right here. Yeah.
This guy's up to 13, so this has got to be on the year, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
on
don't
the
think
year.
he's played enough games to get. So that does also take him over, I believe, to 6 or 7
I think it was
just alone
6.
in Split 2.
Yeah.
So big time plays from Kanavi, who is looking to put his own bid in for MVP of Split 2. But the pressure now goes over towards the defending MVP of Split 1. Doinb and his crew, NIP, were trying to avoid a dastardly 2-5 fall into Group Ascend. They'll have side selection available to them, likely going on to good old reliable blue side. We'll get into all of that after an intermission and maybe another